Hello, this is Tommy Spaulding, and we are in the 7th of the 9th of the Heart-Led Leader webinar. And I just want to start today by letting you know that I'm thinking about you. I know all the 325 clubs throughout Florida are going through a very challenging time with COVID on the rise and potential lockdowns, and just dealing with board members and staff and members. I know this is a really difficult time, and heart-led leadership is needed now more than ever. So I just want you to know I'm thinking about you all. I'm praying for you during this really challenging time. But we have a gift for you this morning, and that gift is Marshall Goldsmith. When you hear people say, oh, he's the #1 hockey player in the world, or the #1 golfer in the world, or he's the #1 club manager in the world, it's how do you document that? How do you actually know who's actually #1? And when I say that Marshall Goldsmith, Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, is the #1 executive coach in the world, that's not really BS. He actually is. He coaches some of the incredible leaders in Fortune 500 companies in the world, and that's where they go to is Marshall. He's an incredible man, so gifted and so smart. Let me tell you a little bit about Marshall. Dr. Goldsmith is a member of the Thinkers 50 Hall of Fame, and that's kind of like your CMAA awards. To be a member of the Hall of Fame is incredible. He's the only 2-time winner of Thinkers 50, #1 leadership thinkers of the world. To be in that group is incredibly prestigious. He's ranked #1 executive coach and top 10 business thinker for the last 8 years. He's written incredible books, 42 to be exact. My favorites are What Got You Here Won't Get You There and Triggers, all New York Times bestsellers. Dr. Goldsmith was the inaugural winner for the Lifetime Award for Leadership Development by the Harvard Institute of Coaching. And so this is a totally impressive resume. But what makes Marshall such a beautiful human being is that every time I call him and ask him to do a fundraiser for youth or to help out with an organization, he's always quick to say yes. He's always quick to mentor. He's incredibly bright, but yet he's got this beautiful, genuine heart to help and serve other people. So we have a real gift to have the #1 executive coach in the world to be coaching into our club managers during this challenging time. And Dr. Goldsmith, Marshall, my good friend, thank you so much for serving my friends in Florida.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for inviting me. I will briefly introduce myself and we'll get started. My name is Marshall, and I'm from a small town called Valley Station, Kentucky. I went to school in Indiana, got a PhD at UCLA. I was a college professor and dean when I was young. And then for 44 years, I've done 3 things. I've traveled all about the world speaking and teaching, and I've been to 102 countries on American Airlines. I have over 11 million frequent flyer miles. I live in Nashville now. If you go to the American Airlines Club, you'll see my picture on the wall with a little thing that says 11 million miles. So I traveled for years. I've got 6 trips scheduled outside the US this year, which is going to be interesting to see if any of those actually happen. So anyway, I've spent a lot of years traveling, speaking, teaching. Then, as was mentioned, I coach executives. I've been the coach of the CEO Ford and Pfizer and Glaxo and the World Bank and the Mayo Clinic and Walmart and on and on and on and on and on. And what I love about coaching is that's where I learn everything. I learned so much from coaching. I'm supposed to teach these people, yet actually they teach me. And then the final thing is I write books and articles, as was mentioned. And you were kind enough to mention, you said they're all bestsellers. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. I have done 42 books. I've done 6 bestsellers, 3 big bestsellers, 1 mega big bestseller, which we're going to talk about today. To be fair, the other 38 books were purchased only by my mother, my father, and relatives. So I've done a whole lot of books, but most of them weren't actually that popular. A few were real popular. Now, what are we going to talk about today? What got you here won't get you there. Helping successful people get even better. People on this call, you're good people, you're successful people. And my goal is just to help you get a little better. And I give away all my material. So all my material you can copy and share and download and duplicate and use the PowerPoint. And I've sent articles. So you'll be sent a bunch of stuff. And go to my website, www.marshallgoldsmith.com. I give everything away there. And also send me an email, marshall@marshallgoldsmith.com. And it's anything else about me. I've been married for 47 years. My wife, Lyda, is a psychologist. We lived in Rancho Santa Fe, California for 30 years. For the last 4 months, I live here in Nashville. And I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm surrounded by country music royalty. Taylor Swift lives across the street, and the guy from Rascal Flatts is 2 houses over. And I just saw Keith Urban. He and Nicole Kidman live about 2 blocks away. So I'm living in the home of country royalty, and I invite everyone to take a walk. If you're ever in Nashville and you want to visit, I take a walk every day. I always invite everyone who's readers or listens to me to come and visit. So come and visit. Now let's go to the first slide. Now, what are our goals? First, we're going to discuss some of the classic challenges faced by successful leaders and how to use what to stop. I'm going to talk about something called Feedforward, a really positive, upbeat way you can use to develop yourself and others, a great process. I'm going to share a proven leadership development model that you can use to develop yourself, coach people, build teams. And then finally, I'm going to share something called daily questions, a very straightforward, simple process to increase effectiveness and to build your engagement. Now, I'm going to warn you in advance. Everything I'm going to talk about is going to be very easy to understand. It's all very difficult to do. And the challenge behind what I teach is not understanding it. This is very straightforward and easy to understand. Your challenge is going to be doing it. Doing it is a challenge. And I'm going to talk about why as we go through our session. Let's go to the next slide. Now, I had the privilege before he died of spending 50 days with the great Peter Drucker, the world's authority on management. And I got ranked #1 leadership thinker in the world, as was nicely pointed out. My intellect compared to Peter Drucker was that of a 10-year-old. This guy was so smart. He taught me so many things. A couple of them I'm going to hopefully teach you today. One thing he taught me is this. He said, we spend a lot of time helping leaders learn what to do. We don't spend enough time helping leaders learn what to stop. He said, half the leaders that I meet, they don't need to learn what to do. They need to learn what to stop. Well, that one comment led to my book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Next slide. Okay, yeah. Now, what are some of the classic challenges of successful people? And what are the classic challenges of some of the smart, very successful people that I work with? Well, I was interviewed in the Harvard Business Review and asked a question. What is the #1 problem of all the successful people you have coached over the years? What is their #1 problem? My answer was winning too much. Now, what does that mean? It's important, we want to win. Meaningful, we want to win. Critical, we want to win. Trivial, we want to win. And not worth it, we want to win anyway. Winners love winning. It's hard for winners not to constantly win. Now, many of you have been brought up in a competitive environment. You like to win, you like to compete. And a lot of times it's good, sometimes not so much. Let me give you a case study. Case study that almost all my clients fail, and given the background of the people on this call, I think many of you will fail this case study. You want to go to dinner at restaurant X. Your husband, wife, friend, or partner wants to go to dinner at restaurant Y. You have a heated argument. You go to restaurant Y. It was not your choice. The food tastes awful and the service is terrible. Option A, you can critique the food, point out our partner was wrong and this mistake could have been avoided if only you'd listened to me. Option B, shut up, eat the stupid food, try to enjoy it and have a nice evening. What would I do? What should I do? Almost all my clients, what would I do? Critique the food. What should I do? Shut up. I'm going to give you another case study that's even worse. You have a tough day at work, a tough day, under a lot of pressure. Hey, your business is under a lot of pressure right now. It's real tough in the club business, a tough day. You go home, your husband, wife, friend, or partner's there, and the other person says, I had such a hard day today. I had such a tough day. And we reply, you had a hard day. You had a hard day. Do you have any idea what I had to put up with today? Do you think you had a hard day? We're so competitive, we have to prove that we're more miserable than people we live with. I gave this example to my class at Dartmouth. A young man raised his hand. He said, I did that last week. I said, what happened? He said, my wife looked at me and said, honey, you just think you had a hard day. It is not over. Well, the next time you start to win that argument and prove you're right, just take a deep breath and ask yourself, what am I winning here? What am I winning? Win the big ones, let go of the rest. The next classic problem is adding too much value. Adding too much value. One of my good coaching clients was JP Gardner. JP was the CEO of a very large drug company called GlaxoSmithKline. I asked JP, what'd you learn about leadership as the CEO of GlaxoSmithKline? He said, I've learned a very hard lesson. He said, my suggestions become orders. Now he said, if they're smart, they're orders, and if they're stupid, they're orders. And if I want them to be orders, they're orders. If I don't, they're orders anyway. My suggestions are orders. I asked JP, what does that mean? He said, when I ask people to do something or I give an idea, they just do it. Now, for 9 years, I trained the admirals in the United States Navy. What's the first thing I teach the new admirals when they get that star? I said, when you get that star, your suggestions are orders. Admirals don't make suggestions. Admirals give orders. Admiral makes a suggestion. What's the response? Aye, aye, sir. They do it. Well, I asked JP, what'd you learn from me when I was your executive coach that helped you the most? He said, you taught me one lesson that helped me be a better leader and have a happier life. If you don't learn anything from me today but this lesson, you're going to be a better leader and have a happier life. I said, what was it? He said, before I speak, breathe. And ask myself one question, is it worth it? And he said, as the CEO of this huge company, 50% of the time, if I had the discipline to stop and breathe and ask myself, is it worth it? What did I decide? Am I right? Maybe. It's worth it. No. The next one is passing too much judgment. And by the way, 4 words are going to help you be better at work and better at home. The good news, everything I teach doesn't just apply at work, it all applies at home. What are these 4 simple words? Help more, judge less. Help more, judge less. How many of us have friends and family members that might be happy if we helped a little bit more and judge just a tad less? Would they object to these changes? No, not at all. So, classic challenges of smart people, classic challenges of successful people. Why? Well, we're used to proving how smart we are. In your life, you've taken test after test. You have challenge after challenge. You've had to win. You've had to win. You've had to prove you're right. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with being competitive some of the time, just not all of the time. Next slide. Another classic challenge. Before you speak, breathe. Is my comment going to help the people I'm talking to about the club, the people, our customers? If the answer is no, don't say it. Fight the urge to play favorites. We all tend to reinforce people who reinforce us. And we tend to punish people that don't reinforce us. And we see this problem in everyone but ourselves. Now, I'm going to ask you all a question. If you have a dog, write down the name of your dog. Then I've got a question. What family member gets the most positive recognition in your home? Your wife, your kids, your husband, or your dog? And 80% of the time, the answer is the dog. Why? The dog doesn't talk back. The dog is happy to see me. And the dog sucks up. If we're not careful, we all reinforce people who reinforce us. So very careful as a leader not to fall into that trap of just reinforce people who say good things about us, and to realize we can all do this. Rank order your direct reports 4 ways. Number 1, how much do they like me? You don't know how much they like you, but just guess. Number 2, how much are they like me? How much do they remind me of me? Number 3, what's their contribution to the organization and our customers? And number 4, how much recognition do I give them? Well, if we're honest with ourselves, 20% of the time, recognition is more correlated with they like me or they remind me of myself than it is with they're doing their job. And we may be falling into a trap we don't like in others. What's that trap? Playing favorites. Next slide. Next slide. Learning from a great leader. In my role as an executive coach, I have a very unique billing system. I don't get paid if my clients don't get better. Better is not judged by me or them, it's judged by everyone around them. This is a great way to test if someone believes what they're saying. You can ask them one question. You want to bet on it? Want to bet on it? If they say, I believe it, but I don't want to bet on it, they don't believe it. If they say, here's the money, they believe it. I bet on this every time. When you get paid for results, you'll learn a little bit of humility. The client I coached, I spent the most amount of time with, didn't improve at all, and I didn't get paid. The client I spent the least amount of time with improved more than anyone I've ever coached. 200 people got better, and I did get paid. Humbling lesson. For those of you with a background in mathematics, I made a chart on one dimension, time spent with executive coach Marshall Goldsmith, the other dimension, improvement. There seemed to be a negative correlation between spending time with me and getting better. I thought, this is a troubling chart. I go talk to my client who improved the most, who I spent the least amount of time with. It was fantastic to start with. His name, Alan Mullally. Alan Mullally was the CEO of Ford when the stock was $1.01. He came there after the crisis. When he left, it was $18.40. The stock went up 1,837% while he was the CEO. And he had a 97% approval rating from every employee in a union company, the UAW, United Auto Workers. They love this guy. An amazing, amazing man. So I go talk to, he's a great friend of mine. I go talk to my friend, Alan. I said, Alan, of all the people I ever coached to improve the most, I spent the least amount of time with you. I showed Alan my chart. I said, Alan, the way this chart looks, had you never met me, you'd really be good. I asked Alan, what should I learn about coaching from you? He taught me 2 lessons. And if you just learn these lessons, you're going to be a better coach and have a happier life. He said, lesson number 1, your biggest challenge as a coach is about customer selection. You pick the right customer, your coaching process always works. You pick the wrong customer, your coaching process never works. They said, don't make the coaching about yourself and your own ego and how smart you think you are. Make it about the great people you work with and how proud you are of them. These were such good lessons. These lessons changed my life. This was 25, 30 years ago. These lessons changed my life. Well, great learning. If people don't care, none of this stuff I'm going to teach you is going to help. Don't waste your time. And if you don't care, don't waste your time. If you're going to get better at anything, the motivation for your improvement is going to come from one and only one place. Where's that? In your heart. It doesn't come from in here. You're not going to do it anyway. What I've learned, I can't make people change what they don't want to change. I can help people change what they do want to change. I can't make you change what you don't want to change. You don't want to change something, you're not going to do it anyway. It's okay. I can help you change what you do want to change. That's good enough. Let me give you an example. Has anyone on this call ever tried to change the behavior of a husband, wife, or partner that had no interest in changing? How's that working out for you? Or even worse, how about trying to change the behavior of mommy or daddy who has no interest in changing? I was teaching my class at Dartmouth, and a woman raised her hand. I said, are you trying to change mommy or daddy? She said, daddy. I asked her, what's daddy's problem? She said, daddy does not have a healthy lifestyle. So I said, well, how old is daddy? She said, 94 years old. Leave the old boy alone. You want to smoke a cigar, old man? Smoke too. Well, learning point. In terms of coaching, work with people that care. If they care, they can get better. And if they don't, they can't. It was mentioned, I got ranked #1 coach in the world forever. Why? Nobody knows if I'm a good coach or not. Nobody watches me coach all these people. I've got great customers. To be fair, anybody would look like a great coach if you had the wonderful people that I work with. So you want to be a great coach, it's pretty simple. Just get great clients. Next slide. Feed forward. One of the keys to everything I do is called feed forward. This is a very positive, upbeat way to help yourself and other people get better. Now, how does feed forward work? In feed forward, I train everyone to ask for an ideas about the future, not about the past. Listen and just thank people. Don't promise to do everything, but promise to do what you can. I've done this with coaching with one person, but I've also done this with 50,000 people at once. 50,000 people in a football stadium at once. So how does it work? I get up in front of the group, and I did it in St. Petersburg, Russia. 50,000 people. I said, we're going to practice feed forward. I want everybody to look around the room. I said, are there nice people in this room? Yeah. You had a chance to help these people. Would you like to help them? Yeah. I said, there's smart people in this room. Yeah. Well, we had a chance to learn from these people. Would you like to learn from them? Well, you're either going to be helping, which is good, or learning, which is good. Then I said, pick one thing to improve that's going to help you have a better life, or the people around you have a better life. And you're going to say, my name is, here's what I want to get better. Give me ideas. Whatever they say, you say thank you. You don't judge and critique. You say thank you. Treat this like a gift. Someone gives us a gift. You don't say stinky gift or bad gift. I don't like your stupid gift. Say thank you. Well, everyone stands up. My name is Boris. I want to be a better listener. Give me ideas. A couple of ideas. Thank you. My name is Natasha. I want to be better at recognition. Give me ideas. Ideas. Thank you. They shake hands and talk to more people. I've done this with 50,000 people at once. They love it. It doesn't matter what country I'm in. Why? Positive, simple, focused, and fast. Positive, simple, focused, and fast. I'm going to teach you how to do this in your own life, just as a day-to-day process, and show you why it works and how it works. Next slide. Peter Drucker said, the leader of the past knew how to tell. The leader of the future is going to know how to ask. Why? Most people today, we manage people, they know more about what they're doing than we do. You can't tell them what to do and how to do it. You have to ask and listen and learn. Next slide. Now, developing yourself as a leader and a partner. I'm going to share a very simple process that's backed by research from 86,000 people around the world. It was ranked #1 article ever published in Strategy and Business. And you can use it at work, at home, with friends, with family. First, get in the habit of asking a question. What is that great question? How can I be a better? How can I be a better? Then listen to people, think about what they have to say, thank them, respond, involve, change, and follow up. So let's talk about this process. Next slide. First step in the process is just start asking a question. How can I be a better? Not just at work, at home too. I've asked thousands of people this question. Do you believe customer satisfaction is important? They all raise their hand. Should you ask your customers how you can do better? Yes. Then I say, do you have a husband, wife, or partner at home? Yes. Have you been asking that partner, how can I be a better husband, a better wife, a better partner? Silence. Well, ask this question at work and ask it at home. Ask your kids, what can I do to be a better father? What can I do to be a better mother? Ask your husband or wife or partner, how can I be a better partner? And I was teaching a class at the Oakland Convention Center for a company called Kaiser Permanente. And a woman raised her hand. Her name was Trudy Triner, and she wrote a book about this. And she said, I've been to your class twice. I've listened to everything you've ever said. And there's always one thing you've left out. She said, please ask people to ask this question to their parents. She said, I went to your class and I came home and I asked my daughter, how can I be a better mother? We had such a nice talk. And then my daughter asked me, how can I be a better daughter? I thought, well, that was so nice. I should call my mother. She said, I called my mother and said, what can I do to be a better daughter? My mother said, Daddy's dead. I live alone in the country. And every day I take a long walk up the road to go to the mailbox. And almost every day there's nothing in the mailbox. And it makes me so lonely. She said, you know, it mean so much to me if you just send me a picture or card every day. So when I go to the mailbox, there'd be something there. She started sending her mother little cards every day and pictures. What did that cost her? Nothing. What did that mean to her mother? Everything. She sent me an email a few years later and said, my mother just died. The last thing her mother told her before she died, thank you for doing that. If your parents are alive, this is a very nice thing to do for 3 reasons. One, it's good for them. Even if they say you have nothing to improve, they will be proud you cared enough to ask. Number 2 is good for you. What's the #1 regret kids have when mom and dad die? Well, why didn't I thank them for all the nice things they did to help me? And then number 3, it's good for your kids if you have little kids. Why? You know, the old people you're calling on the phone, guess what? They're going to be the old people. You want your kid calling you on the phone? Your little child is not going to listen to what you say. Your little child's going to watch what you do. Our values aren't what we say, our values are what we do. So I'm going to ask you one question. Who do you need to ask this question? How can I be a better? Who do you need to ask this question to at work, at home? Whoever that is for you, do that. Nobody can answer that question for you but you. That's got to come from your heart. Whoever that is for you, just do that. Next slide. After we ask for input, the first thing we want to do is the last thing we should do. Ask for input, then express my opinion. If I ask you for input and start talking, it sounds like defensiveness, denial, rationalization. Fight that urge to make excuses and just listen. Next slide. Think. Who's the greatest leader I've ever met in my life? A woman named Frances Hesselbein. Frances retired after 14 years as National Executive Director of the Girl Scouts of America. And Peter Drucker said the greatest leader he's ever met, a wonderful person. And she does one thing before she talks that almost none of us do. What's that called? Think. Think. What do most of us do when we get feedback? What do most of us do when we get angry? What does she do? Breathe and stop and think. Not only what am I going to say, how am I going to say it? She got a great quote. Why should I be entrusted to control anything else if I can't control myself? Don't speak when you're angry. Don't speak when you're out of control. Breathe. Think before you talk. Hard at work, sometimes even harder at home. Ask, listen, think. Next slide. Thank people. Don't punish the people who try to help us. Don't punish the people. Thank people. Easy in theory, very, very difficult in practice. Let me give you 2 examples of asking for input, a very negative and a positive. Negative example, there's a great book called The Checklist Manifesto, published by Dr. Atul Gawande from Harvard Medical School. In the book, The Checklist Manifesto, Dr. Gawande makes a fascinating point. He said, if you go in for a surgery and the nurse asks the doctor a series of very simple questions from a checklist before the surgery, the odds on unneeded infection plummet and the death rate is cut by 2/3. The huge majority of hospitals in the world do not allow the nurse to ask the doctor the questions. Why? Ego. The doctor is ashamed to admit they need help. Too much ego. According to Dr. Gawande, more people have died because of the egos of surgeons than died in the Vietnam War and the Afghan War and the Iraqi War put together. Too much ego. That's a negative example. Now for the positive example. For 9 years, I trained the admirals in the United States Navy. Now, I don't charge them any money. My dad was in the Navy. I wasn't in the military. So to give back, I just train the admirals for free. They don't give me money, but they give me treats. A couple of years ago, my treat, day in a nuclear submarine. Me and 8 other old men got to spend a day in a nuclear submarine, diving underwaters, pretending to torpedo things. Oh, it was fun. A little bit later, I got a better treat. Where'd I get to go? Highway 2 of the danger zone. You've seen the movie before, Top Gun. I got to spend 90 minutes in US Navy Top Gun fighter jet. 6 Gs, oxygen mask, flying upside down, doing tricks. I'm very proud to say I did not throw up. By the way, it was horrifying. 6 Gs is brutal. The pilot goes, let's go up, straight up, 6 Gs. I'm thinking up is bad, up is bad. Then they stalled the plane out. Ooh. I learned quickly there's one thing worse than up. What's that called? Down. Straight down about 500 miles an hour. The earth is going right at your face. My body is thinking, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. And then I'm going, I am going to die. Well, very tough. After we landed, I noticed my friend, the pilot, the admiral, had gone through a checklist before we took off. I said, you know, sir, this is puzzling. The doctor don't like the nurse asking a question because their ego's too big. I said, no offense, sir. Nobody's got a bigger ego than US Navy Top Gun fighter jet pilot who becomes an admiral. He's one of the biggest egos in the world. You don't mind this kid asking you the question. I said, sir, well, what's the difference? He said, Marshall, there's a huge difference. Huge difference. He said, now you see that operation crashes? That would be you die. Plane crashes, I die. I die. So how important is our ego? Get over that ego and pride stuff and just thank people for giving us ideas. Now, the next thing is ask, listen, think, thank. Next slide. Respond. How do you respond to feedback? Well, I don't know much about much, but I'm the world's authority on how to respond to feedback. Every one of my clients gets confidential 360-degree feedback from everyone around them, their direct reports, their peers, their colleagues. And I teach them to respond in a very positive, simple, and straightforward way that sounds like this. I'd say, you know, Mr. Coworker, thank you so much for going through this process. And I have a coach and for talking to my coach and for giving me feedback. I don't know who said what. I know a lot of people took the time to help me, and I just want to say how grateful I am. A lot of my feedback is positive. Ethical, dedicated, hardworking, caring about the company and customers and creative and getting results. Important things to me. I hope we score high, and they did. I just want to say I'm grateful. And there's something I want to do better. And my advice is don't pick 20 things as a leader. Pick one thing to improve and try to get better at that. For example, you might say, I want to be a better leader. I want to be a better listener. If I haven't listened to you or the others, I'm sorry. Please accept my apologies. We all screw up. It's okay. What should I do when I make a mistake? Apologize. Feel like blaming somebody? Blame ourselves. You want others to take responsibility as a leader? Let them watch you take a little responsibility. Then ask for input, feed forward. I would say, you know, I want to be a better listener. I'm not going to ask you for more feedback about the past. I can't change the past anyway. I'm going to ask you for ideas for the future. If you had to have ideas for the future to help me be a positive and open-minded listener, what would they be? Whatever the person says, sit there, shut up, listen, take notes, and say thank you. Don't judge and critique. Don't judge and critique. Just say thank you. I would say, thank you for the ideas. I'm not going to promise to do everything everyone says. I'm going to listen to the ideas and do the best I can. Thank you so much. Next slide. After responding, involve people. If you want to achieve any positive change in behavior, there's some simple guidelines. Number one, you got to set a goal. You have to set a goal. What is it you want to get better at? Number two, write it down. Number three, publicly state that goal and have a system to measure it, and then involve the people around you to help you achieve your goal. Involve others to help you get better. Have a support group. Next slide. Change. I'd been in business for 12 years before anybody asked me the great existential question. What was it? Does anyone really ever change? Does anyone ever really change? Well, I have a background in mathematics, and I said, I have a degree in math, and I'm not going to make up an answer. I don't have any research to prove it. So I guess the real answer is I don't know. I'm going to do some research and answer that question. For 32 years, I've been answering this question. Now I know who changes, who doesn't change, why people change, and why people don't change. And the answer is, can people change? Definitely. Will people change? Maybe. A more important question, far more important, is can you change? Definitely. Will you change? Maybe. Well, we're going to talk about the key to making change last, can be summarized in one term: follow up. Next slide. Follow up. Now, what does follow up sound like? Back to our example of listening. You might say, 2 months ago, I said I wanted to be a more effective listener. Based on the last 2 months, give me ideas for the next 2 months. 4 months ago, I said I wanted to be a more effective listener. Based on the last 2 months, give me ideas for the next 2 months. 6 months ago, 8 months ago, 10 months ago, I said I wanted to do better. Please give me ideas. Just keep following up and stick with it. Now, what happens if you do this? I'm going to answer this not from a theory point of view, but from a research point of view. This is a study called Leadership is a Contact Sport. 86,000 participants from around the world. Next slide. There's no country this doesn't work. There's no level of management this doesn't work. From CEO to first line supervisor, there's no industry it doesn't work. It'll work in any industry. What happened in our research? Next slide. Every leader in our research got multi-rater feedback, just like I described. They were all asked to pick something important to improve, the example I gave, talk to coworkers, just like I illustrated, and then follow up. Then we did a mini survey a year later to measure, has this person become a more effective leader, not as judged by himself or herself, as judged by everyone around them. What did we learn in our research? And this is how I got into my pay for results coaching. One, because it always works. Next slide. Leaders that said, my manager went to that training program, but after the training program, and I got that feedback, the coworker said no follow-up, didn't talk to me, didn't involve me at all. The scale -3, 0, +3. -3 got worse, +3 got better, 0 didn't change. Well, if you look at the scores, that looks slightly better than a normal distribution curve. I've done a control group study. The control group did this well. These people might as well have been watching sitcoms as go to a training program and get feedback, a complete waste of time. Next slide. When people said my coworker did a little follow-up, guess what? Got a little better. Next slide. When people said my coworker did some follow-up, you notice that curve moving. Next slide. When people said my coworker did frequent follow-up, much, much better. And finally, next slide. When my people said my coworker did consistent or periodic follow-up, dramatic improvement. Now I went to the same program. It was all taught by the same person. In most cases, me. They got feedback on the same process at the same time. What did I learn from all this research? To quote my friend Alan Mulally, if you get better, it doesn't have much to do with me. It's got everything to do with you. This stuff works. It just doesn't happen to work if you don't do it. And our challenge in life is not understanding it. Our challenge is doing it. So let's review what I've talked about. Get in the habit of asking for input. How can I be a better leader, friend, family member, partner, husband, wife, father, mother, son, daughter? How can I be a better? Listen to people. Don't try to change everything. Pick something that's most important and then respond, involve them, follow up, change. Easy to understand and hard to do. Why? It takes a lot of courage. It takes courage to ask for input. Number two, it takes humility. You know what I've learned as a coach? I can't help perfect people get better. If you're perfect, none of this is going to help you anyway. You need to have some humility, and it takes discipline. It takes discipline to do the day-to-day follow-up and stick with it required to improve. Next slide. Changing perception. Now, as a leader, changing perception is more difficult than changing behavior. Changing perception is more difficult. Why? We all view people in a manner that's consistent with our previous stereotype. For example, if I have a stereotype of you that says you're a bad listener, I'm going to look for a bad listener in everything you do until I find it. It is very hard to change perceptions of others. Let me give you a very simple example to illustrate my point. Let us imagine your problem is you make too many destructive comments about other people. I picked that example because it seems so simple. Just quit doing it and the problem's gone. Not so simple. I'm your coworker. Case study A, you get this feedback, you make too many destructive comments. You don't talk to me, you don't follow up. You go 7 months and don't make one destructive comment about anyone, 7 months. 7 months later, you say, idiots in finance, stupid bean counters. How do we get anything done in this company? It's run by a bunch of stupid accountants. I hear you. My reaction is, he never changed. He never changed. That one comment will trigger my previous stereotype. He never changed. Case study 2, you talk to me. You say, coworker Marshall, I got this feedback. I want to be a better team player, not make bad comments. Give me ideas for the future. I give you ideas. I don't think you're going to change, but I go along with this. 2 months later, though, when you follow up, it's been 2 months. Give me ideas. I want to be a great team player, not make bad comments. Now, all of a sudden, I think, I never thought about it. Good job, 4 months. Good job, 6 months. You know, to be honest, I didn't think you'd change. You've worked hard. I appreciate it. Thank you. 7 months. Idiots in finance. What do I say? You went 7 months without doing that. You shouldn't have said that. I say, you're right. I'm going to apologize. Situation A, did behavior change? Yes. Did perception change? No. Situation B, did behavior change? Yes. Did perception change? Yes. In leadership, it doesn't matter what we think we said. All that matters is what they heard. Now, let me give you an example to illustrate my point. If you have a Roman numeral watch or clock, write down, what does a 4 look like? What does the 4 look like on the Roman numeral watch or clock? Almost everybody says, well, it's an IV. In about 80 or 90% of all Roman numeral watches and clocks, the 4 is not an IV, it's 4 eyes. Yet we don't see it. I've done this exercise with people that have owned the same watch for 40 years. They've looked at it every day. They never noticed that the 4 is 4 eyes. Why? In life, we don't see what's there. We see what we think is there. We don't see what's there. We see what we think is there. It is hard to change perception. It is hard to change perception. That's why this requires follow-up, discipline over time, and it doesn't happen in a day or two. Nobody gets better because they listen to me give a speech or read a book. You have to work. You have to work. Next slide. Now, it's okay to need help and structure. This is a very important point. We've been brought up with almost an inherent shame of needing help. There's one thing I'm very proud of. My book, Triggers, is endorsed by 27 major CEOs, publicly endorsed this book. Why am I so proud of that? 30 years ago, no CEO would admit to having a coach. They would have been ashamed or embarrassed to have a coach. Today, these are people, there are 27 great people saying, I need help, and it's okay. Hey, I'm the CEO of the Year in the United States. I need help. I'm the number 2 CEO of the Year in the United States. I need help. I'm president of World Bank. I need help. I won the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I need help. Who are we kidding? We all need help. How many of the top 10 tennis players have a coach? 10? You're in the club business. How many people need lessons? Lots of people need all kinds of lessons. Well, people need help, and it's okay. You just admit you need help as a leader. You need help as a family member. You need help as a friend. We all need help. Now, think about that problem that you've had for 20 years. We've all got this stuff we haven't fixed for 20 years. You think you're going to fix it next week by yourself? No. You think next week is going to be different? No. We all need help, and it's okay. Now, I have someone call me on the phone. My friend Mark Thompson calls me up on the phone every day. Over the years, I've had different people do this. I've had someone call me up on the phone almost every day for 25 years to remind me to practice the stuff I teach. Somebody asked me this question: why do you have someone call you on the phone every day? Don't you know the theory about how to change behavior? I wrote the theory about how to change behavior. Why do I have someone call me on the phone every day? My name is Marshall Goldsmith. I'm too cowardly and undisciplined to do any of this stuff by myself. I need help, and it's okay. We all need help, and it's okay. The doctor needs help. I'm going to forget to wash my hands. I need help. The tennis player needs help. The golfer needs help. We all need help. It's okay. Just get over that macho willpower, I can do everything on my own nonsense, and life is better for all of us. Next slide. Now, the key to positive change, courage. What I'm going to teach you next takes a lot of courage. And by the way, if you think what I'm going to teach you next is easy, you proved one thing: you've never done it before. You've never done it. This stuff is far from easy. It takes humility. It's a humbling process I'm going to teach you. And it takes a lot of discipline because you need to do it every day of your life. Next slide. Now, how does the daily question process work? First, get out a spreadsheet. On one column, write down a series of questions that represent what is most important in your life. Friends, family, health, co-workers, whatever it is for you, write it down. Spreadsheet, questions. 7 boxes across, one for every day of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Every question must be answered with a yes, a no, or a number. Every day you fill out the little form: yes, no, or a number. For example, a yes or no is, did I call my wife, or did I call my kids when I was on the road? That's a yes or no. Or a number might be, how many push-ups did I do? How much did I weigh? Every question is a yes, no, or a number. And then every day you fill out the form. At the end of the week, you get a report card. I'm going to warn you in advance, that report card you get at the end of the week might not be quite as beautiful as a corporate values plaque you see up on the wall. So I've been doing this for many years. You know, I've learned that life is incredibly easy to talk. Life is incredibly difficult to live. When you do this every day, you don't look at those talk values, look at those live values. Those are tough. You know, let me give you some of my questions, just by way of example. My questions are not intended to be your questions. If you'd like all of my questions, send me an email, marshall@marshallgoldsmith.com. I'll send you an article about this and all of my questions. Just use those by example, though. You write your own questions, as many or few as you like. One of my daily questions is, how many times yesterday did you try to prove you were right when it was not worth it? Kind of hard for that old professor not to be right all the time. I don't see too many zeros on my scorecard. How many angry or destructive comments did you make about people yesterday? I don't want other people stabbing me in the back. How come I'm stabbing other people in the back? Again, not as many zeros as there should be. How many minutes did you walk? How many push-ups? How many sit-ups? Did you say or do something nice for your wife, or your son, or your children, or your grandchildren? Just questions about life every day. How many minutes did you write? You know, all those books, they didn't write themselves. I had to put in a lot of time there. How many minutes did you write? Well, one of my friends is Jim Moore, a great friend. I'm still a friend with him. After probably 30 years, we've known each other. And he and I used to do this together every day. And one of his questions is, am I currently updated on my physical exam? First 90 days we did this together, he gave himself a no every day. I'm not updated. Every day, no, no, no. After 90 days, he said, this is embarrassing. I've got to get the dumb exam or quit asking this question. Well, he got the dumb exam. What did the doctor say? You have cancer. Now, that was many years ago. He's going to be fine. The doctor also said, had you waited 7 more months, though, you'd have been dead. He knew he should have gotten a physical exam. He just didn't do it. Well, when you put this mirror in your face every day, it's hard to hide. It's very hard to hide. How about the trip to the dentist? Have you ever noticed a flurry of dental flossing activity the 2 days before you walk into that dentist office? Blood's running all out of your mouth. You go into the dentist office, the dentist says, have you been flossing? Oh, yeah, dentist. Yeah, I've been. Oh, sure. Do you think we're fooling the dentist with this? Do you think we're fooling the dentist? I asked a question in one of my classes. How many of you ever avoided a physical exam? You said, I'll get that exam after I go on that healthy foods diet and begin my exercise program. Half the class raises their hand. I called him, this one guy said, sir, did you trick the doctor with that strategy? He said, I am the doctor. So write down the important questions of your life and every day start saying, okay, how did I do? Next slide. Now I'm here, the previous work on employee engagement. Now, I'm something called a fellow of the National Academy of Human Resources. This is top human resources people from around the US, and most of them are the CEOs of human resources, or CHRO, I guess you call it, of human resources in big companies. And then they have a few consultants like me and David Ulrich and Ram Charan tossed in. And then we all get together and have meetings. So at one of these meetings, the people before me were asked to give a presentation on the topic of employee engagement. And they were given a challenge. 3 of the top HR people in America, tell us everything you know about employee engagement. And they said, well, you need to have recognition, reward programs, training, compensation, empowerment, all stuff I'd heard before. Then they said, in spite of all previous efforts, global employee engagement is near an all-time low. I'm thinking, this is puzzling. I've been hearing the same sermons for 30 years, nothing's getting better. Somebody seems to be missing something. Then I realized something. 100% of the dialogue was focused on what the organization can do to engage you. 0 was what can you do to engage yourself. I'm not exaggerating. 100% it's the company's problem. 0, it's my problem. Well, I fly all the time on American Airlines. There's 2 flight attendants. One's positive, motivated, upbeat, enthusiastic. One's negative, bitter, angry, and cynical. Have you ever been on that flight? Same pay, same uniform, same employee engagement program. What's the difference? It's not the outside, it's the inside. It's not the inside. Well, get people to challenge themselves. John Kennedy gave a great speech. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Most of the employee engagement literature is the opposite of John Kennedy's speech. What's somebody else going to do to engage you, not what are you going to do to engage yourself? Next slide. Now I'm living here in Nashville. My daughter Kelly lives here. She's a professor at Vanderbilt. I'm very proud of her. This year she became a full professor and she won both the Teacher of the Year and Researcher of the Year awards. So I'm a proud dad. And I'm talking about this stuff with my daughter Kelly. I said, Kelly, what do you think? She said, Dad, get people to try something called active questions. She said, everything in employee engagement is a passive question. Do you have clear goals? Passive question. If you get a negative response, you say, yeah, they're confused. Do you have meaningful work? They make me do trivia. Do you have a best friend at work? They're a bunch of jerks. It's their fault. Get people to ask active questions that focus on the phrase, did I do my best to? So people look in the mirror and say, what can I do to make things better? Not what can somebody else do to help me? Next slide. I'm now going to share 6 questions, very simple questions, to challenge yourself with every day. And if you just do this, the results are pretty amazing. Every day, ask yourself 6 questions, and every question begins with that phrase, did I do my best to? Number 1, did I do my best to set clear goals? Did I do my best to set clear goals? Well, that sounds like it's pretty obvious. Over the COVID period, my friend Mark Thompson and I spent 350 hours with 60 amazing people. Every weekend, we do 4 or 5 sessions and we go over something called the LPR and we review people's daily questions. These people included people like the president of the World Bank and the head of the Rockefeller Foundation, and some athletes like Pau Gasol, famous basketball player, and Curtis Martin, famous NFL Hall of Fame football player, and oh my goodness, head of the Olympic Committee, just amazing people. You might think they'd all get perfect scores every week on did I do my best? No, just like everybody else, often they'd say, you know, I woke up, I got an email, I got a phone call, at the end of the day, I guess my goal was respond to crap because it's basically all I did all day. Well, it's hard to just have the discipline every day to set clear goals for the day. Number two, did I make progress toward achieving goals? Instead of saying, did the company help do their best to help me? Did I do my best to make sure that I did what I said I was going to do? Now, the next one I'm going to spend some time on. Did I do my best to be happy? Every day, ask yourself, did I do my best to be happy? Now, in my book, Triggers, I mentioned 3 medical doctors I've worked with. Obviously, I have the rights to use their names. They're in the book. These are 3 of the smartest people I ever met. Dr. Jim Kim was president of World Bank, president of Dartmouth College, simultaneous MD, medical degree, and PhD in anthropology with honors from Harvard in 5 years. Now, to put this in context, a normal human to get a PhD in anthropology from Harvard takes 8 years. So he got one in 5 years with honors and got a medical degree at the same time. When the brains were passed out, my buddy, Dr. Jim, not at the back of the line. Dr. John Noseworthy, head of the Mayo Clinic, pretty impressive. And Dr. Ross Shaw was head of the United States Agency for International Development at age 37, reported to Hillary Clinton, who was Secretary of State. Now he's the CEO of the Rockefeller Foundation. Reasonably bright fellows, all medical doctors. Independently ask him this question: how would you score on the average day of, did I do my best to be happy? All 3 had the same answer. Never dawned on me to try to be happy. It never dawned on me to try to be happy. Now, they're all medical doctors. I said, did it dawn on you you're going to die? Did they cover that one in medical school? I said, yeah, they covered that death thing. I said, do you think this is a silly or trivial question? He said, no, it's an important question. Just got too busy achieving stuff to ask. Well, the average human being gets about a 5.5 out of 10 on, did I do my best to be happy? Give yourself a score and see what it is. Try to raise the score. The next one, did I do my best to find meaning? Rather than saying, did other people give me meaning, or did I do my best to create meaning where I was? Did I do my best to build positive relationships? Instead of saying, do you have a friend at work? Were you the friend? And finally, did I do my best to be fully engaged? Rather than saying, did they engage me? Did I engage myself? Next slide. Now, our research on this is pretty amazing. 95 studies, 4,885 participants. We had people just do this every day and measure, did they get better? 34% of people said they got better at everything. 67% said I got better at 4, 97% I got better at least 1, 9% said no change, and less than 1% said things got worse. Why? Every day, these 6 questions get me to focus on the one thing in life I can control. Did I do my best to? Next slide. So every day, a discipline. Go through these 6 questions every day, challenge yourself. Next slide. And finally, one question to just keep in front of you at all times. I've probably spent 400 hours studying Hinduism, Buddhism, philosophy, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to save you the 400 hours. Just ask yourself this question at all times. Am I being the person I want to be right now? Am I being the person that I want to be right now? When you're with your kids, am I being the father I want to be right now? When you're with your husband or wife or partner, am I being the partner I want to be right now? Am I being the manager I want to be right now? Every day, keep that in front of you. One of the greatest CEOs I've ever met is Gary Ridge. He's the CEO of a company called WD-40. Amazing employee engagement scores, fantastic results. He has this on a big poster in front of his house, in front of his office. Every day he looks at it and he goes to the office. Next slide. Now, the best coaching advice you're ever going to receive, and I'm going to wrap up, is this. Take a breath. Imagine you're 95 years old and you're just getting ready to die. But right before you take your last breath, you're given a great gift. The ability to go back in time and talk to the person who's listening to me right now, help that person be a better leader and have a happier life. What advice would that old person who knows what mattered in life and what didn't, what was important and what wasn't, have for you? Well, some friends of mine asked a bunch of people who were facing death this question. On the personal side, 3 themes. Theme number 1, I've already talked about, be happy now. Not next week, not next month, not next year. Be happy now. Number 2, friends and family. Never get so busy climbing the ladder of success you forget the people you love. Number three, you have a dream, go for it. Because you don't when you're 45, you probably won't when you're 85. And the business advice isn't much different. Have fun. If you don't have fun in your job, you're not going to have fun in a lot of other jobs, I can tell you. Your job sounds like a pretty good time to me. Have fun. Number two, do whatever you can do to help people. And the main reason to do that has nothing to do with money or status or getting ahead. It's the old person is going to be proud of you because you did, and disappointed if you don't. And finally, just go for it. The world's changing. You're changing. Life is changing. Do what you think is right. You may not win. At least you can say, I tried. Old people, we almost never regret the risk we take and fail. We always regret the risk we failed to take. And finally, my mission in life is pretty simple. Help you have a little better life and maybe help the people around you have a little better life. If anything on this call is helping you or maybe the people around you have a little bit better life, this has been a very good use of my time. Thank you very much.
Oh, Marshall, I could listen to you for hours. And I got so many text messages from friends that were on the call saying how much they enjoyed your message. And I appreciate your time this morning, my friend. You did a fantastic job, and hope you and your family and grandkids are all well.
Life is good. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It is good. Folks at the Florida Club Mountain Association, you're in my heart and my thoughts this next couple months. I know it's I really grind with dealing with COVID and all the changes and everything happening. And I want you to know that we're thinking of you. These Heart-Led Leader Retreats webinar things has been fantastic to do 7 of them, having Marshall today. And in 2 weeks on September 21st, we're having the Heart-Led Leader speak named Mark Miller, who's in charge of all of customer service and leadership development for Chick-fil-A. I think he was like the 8th or 9th employee of Chick-fil-A, and now he runs all of their leadership development and customer service for Chick-fil-A. An incredible author, Mark Miller, is in 2 weeks, a great speaker, September 21st. Beth wanted me to say a couple things. One is the code for today's educational session is Goldsmith. And just want to reach out to Beth Sargent and thank her for being my partner through these webinars, and looking forward to seeing you on September 21st with Mark Miller with Chick-fil-A. Take care and God bless.